Chapter 1. Psychology is defined as the scientific study of behavior and mental processes. Psychology is best described as an science. A scientific theory is an explanation of why and how a behavior occurs. A common misconception that people have about psychology is that psychologists only study abnormal behavior. What is a common myth about psychology? Psychology does not involve true experimental research because it cannot. One of the 4 goals of psychology is to predict, describe, explain, control, change. The first step of the scientific method is to make predictions about behavior. Naturalistic observations are predominantly used to achieve the goals of description and prediction. A correlation coefficient is a number that indicates the strength of a relationship between 2 factors. The dependent variable shows the effect of the manipulation. Chapter 2. The neuron that sends the signal at the synapse is known as the presynaptic neuron. The body's chief inhibitory neurotransmitter that helps regulate arousal and pain is GABA-gamma-aminobutyric acid. Which of the following neurotransmitters plays a role in regulating sleep, arousal, and mood? Norepinephrine. One method to treat depression is to use a drug that is a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor. Which 2 neurotransmitters are involved in sleep, arousal, and mood? Serotonin and norepinephrine. The chemical messengers that carry signals across the space between 2 neurons are known as the neurotransmitters. A fatty, waxy substance that insulates portions of some neurons in the nervous system is known as myelin. The brief period of time after a neuron has fired an action potential when the neuron is unlikely to fire another action potential is known as the refractory period. As Jamie walks into class, she sees the instructor handing out a quiz and realizes that she has forgotten to study for it. In this moment, which system is causing Jamie's heart rate and respiration to increase? Autonomic nervous system. Dopamine makes which of the following activities very rewarding? Sex. Chapter 6 Quiz. The functions of storing, processing, and retrieving information from our mind all relate to which concept? Memory. Which form of habituation is sometimes used to treat people with post-traumatic stress disorder? Prolonged exposure therapy. John B. Watson conditioned an 11-month-old baby, little Albert, to fear rats by making a loud noise to convert the rat from a neutral stimulus into a which one of these types of stimulus? Conditioned. What did Pavlov notice that made him change the focus of his experiments? The dogs sometimes started salivating when they saw the food dish. Which type of learning happens when an organism learns from the consequences of its behavior? Operant conditioning. Which one of the following terms refers to the tendency to give our attention to unexpected noises or other stimuli? Orienting reflex. Which one of these is a type of stimulus that does not naturally elicit an unconditioned response in an organism? Neutral stimulus. Alexei slaps on some expensive new cologne in the morning, but he is frustrated by noon because he can no longer smell it even though others can. Vladimir reminds him that it is just an example of which one of the following? Habituation. Which one of the following concepts describes what happens to the conditioned response when the conditioned stimulus is presented without the unconditioned stimulus? Extinction. NS is potty training her dog, Spunky, who has learned to urinate when put in the grass after meals. In this example, Spunky urinating on the grass is which one of these responses? Conditioned response. Chapter 7. In the levels of processing model, where does the processing occur? Short-term memory. Despite closing your eyes immediately after seeing an image, you might still be able to see the image. What is this experience called? An iconic memory. Which of the following terms describes implicit memory? Automatic. If chunking were a coding system, it could best be described as semantic. Most of the information stored in a person's long-term memory is encoded semantically. The case of H.N. demonstrates the link between the hippocampus and memory formation. Which of the following would likely require chunking to remember? A phone number. When you feel like you've been studying very hard but can't remember anything, what's the most likely explanation for this? Which of the following would likely not be forgotten by a person who has amnesia? The actions for buttoning a sweater. Being unable to recall the storylines of movies you've watched many times could be symptomatic of which type of amnesia? Retrograde. Chapter 8. Elijah, a 2-month-old, is making repeated OOO and AAA noises. What is this called? Cooing. Grammar refers to which of the following? The rules that govern the sentence structure in a particular language. Information stored in our long-term memory about the world and how it works is called knowledge. The type of problem solving that involves making an educated guess is judgment. Pragmatics refers to the rules of conversation in a culture. Several of your friends have contracted the flu virus during the last few weeks. You awake one morning with fever and muscle aches. Your most logical reasoning process would be to induce that you have contracted the flu. What approach to problem solving guarantees correct results? Algorithm. When we use stored information to accomplish some sort of goal, this is called thinking. What are phonemes? The smallest units of sounds in a language. The belief that something is true independent of any reasoning process is called intuition. Chapter 9. Women who smoke during pregnancy tend to have babies who exhibit which of the following characteristics? Respiratory problems. Which of the following is the major characteristic of the germinal stage of the prenatal period? Cell division. Which of the following is an accommodation? A child recognizes the difference between apples and watermelons. According to Piaget, in which of the following stages of development is an 8-year-old child most likely to be? Concrete operations. Ultrasound can be used to determine an embryo's sex after how many weeks of prenatal development? 12 to 18. Lumi is a child with Down syndrome. Which of Lumi's chromosomes has a defect? 21. A fertilized egg is called which of the following? Zygote. Which of the following is a schema? My shadow follows me. Which of the following is gender schema theory? Gender roles are acquired through reinforcement, modeling, and cognition. 5-year-old Jackie is running on the playground. Which of the following is Jackie using? Gross motor skills. Chapter 10. Ramon wants to raise his sons to have healthy attitudes toward women and treat them as equals. Which one of the following types of learning would be most practical? Observational learning. Regina and her friends went to the movies, and Regina liked the film, but all of her friends hated it. During the discussion, Regina said she hated the film, but secretly still liked it. She used which one of the following concepts in her discussion? Normative conformity. Hormones are related most closely to sex drive. Marin always sits with students like her in the school lunchroom and does not associate with people in other groups. Marin displays which one of the following? In-group bias. The uncomfortable feeling a person gets when their attitude does not match their behavior is known as cognitive dissonance. Peer pressure to drink at a party would be classified under which one of these concepts? Social influence. Valerie wears his dress shirts untucked in order to fit in with the way other students dress at his school. Of which one of the following is his conformity an example? Social influence. The cognitive component of an attitude is called an stereotype. Some salespeople will go for the big sale right away, then after the prospective customer refuses, the salesperson can ask them to find a smaller sale that fits them better. This is an example of door-in-the-face compliance. Behaviors that result from negative stereotypes of other groups of people are called discrimination. Chapter 11. Katie's parents are both musicians and have high standards for her performance on the piano. When they have friends over, they make Katie play for the guests. Her parents lavish praise on her when she performs well, but they can be harsh when she does not. Katie is losing interest in playing the piano and wants to pursue creative writing instead. How might a therapist interpret her behavior if she were a proponent of the humanist approach? The therapist would support her pursuing what brings her closer to her true self. The basis on which the ID operates is called the pleasure principle. Which statement related to birth order is true? Belief in birth order may influence personality. According to Jung, there are female and male aspects of each person called the anima and animus. Which of the following is an example of unconditional positive regard? Being accepted just as you are. According to Freud, the superego will cause a child to feel guilty after they draw on the walls. Maslow's hierarchy of needs is criticized for overlooking the role of culture. Sigmund Freud is credited with developing the psychoanalytic perspective on personality. According to Freud, the majority of a person's experiences are stored in which level of awareness? Preconscious. Gordon Allport's trait theory resulted from his efforts to understand the behavior of a specific individual. Chapter 13. The best way to assess whether a person is immediately at risk of attempting suicide is to ask the person directly if they are planning to injure or kill themselves. Emotional components of worry include restlessness and irritability. Hoarding disorder and obsessive-compulsive disorder, OCD, both involve behaviors that the person can't control or avoid. Anita has a busy life and she seems to be stressed a lot. For example, when she is invited to an event, she worries excessively about what to wear, who else is going, and whether she might say something embarrassing, sometimes to the point where she misses the event altogether. Anita's symptoms most clearly suggest that she may have generalized anxiety disorder. A person with a diagnosis of social anxiety disorder is most likely to be afraid of being embarrassed. The primary difference between a moody person and a person with a mood disorder is that a person with a mood disorder will have trouble functioning in daily life as a result of mood changes. Depression has been linked to which one of the following neurotransmitters? Serotonin. A person who shows the characteristics of antisocial personality disorder is most likely to act impulsively without caring how the behaviors may affect other people. Skylar, who has recently been diagnosed with major depressive disorder, has been experiencing learned helplessness. This mostly manifests in which of the following symptoms? Loss of interest in usually pleasurable activities. Hearing voices telling you what to do is which of the following? A hallucination. Chapter 14. Barry has developed an emotional attachment with his therapist. He asks the therapist out for a drink. What is ethically required of the therapist? The therapist may not go out for a drink with Barry under any circumstances. What is an example of a situation in which a therapist could ethically break a client's confidentiality without the client's permission? As part of proceedings to commit the client to a treatment facility. Two main types of behavior therapy include classical conditioning techniques and operant conditioning techniques. What is a major barrier to clients who wish to but cannot receive therapeutic care? Cost. What does the humanistic approach to therapy focus on? Conscious actions. What does medication seek to do in psychopharmacology? Reduce the symptoms of a disorder. What would be an example of a self-help group? A group of military veterans who meet privately to discuss their experiences in the war. Sam is receiving operant conditioning therapy. Which of the following techniques is her therapist most likely to use? Shaping. Techniques that are used to help people with mental health disorders or interpersonal problems are collectively called therapy. Compared to individual therapy, group therapy gives the clients a chance to help others in a similar situation.